And just because we're on the same team doesn't always mean our dream and desire is necessarily going to be 100% parallel. But even when it goes in another direction, we can support each other and know that no matter what, like I always know, it's always like, what's the worst thing that can happen? If I'm going to do something that's crazy or put something out there on social media, it's like, what's the worst thing? Well, I know I'll always have Rudi in my camp. You know what I mean? Like, I know I will always have him, and I know I will always have his support. It's like having that net, that you'll always fall into.
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the Empowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudyrixteens.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Rixteens, and this is the Empowered Life.
Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast with your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Rixteens. And today we have an incredible episode for you. We've brought in 2 powerful people, but for a very, very intentional reason. I mean, obviously, every episode we want to be very intentional about creating an environment that supports you in achieving your highest and your greatest potential. And so often we speak into transformation as it relates to an individual. Well, we want to talk about what does it look like when you are in partnership with somebody in life and in business. And so we have brought to you 2 unbelievable, powerful people, and they're dear friends of ours, and that is Don and Yvonne Verity. They are the founders of Clean Eatz. They are unbelievably successful, have a tremendous amount of pressure and ventures that they are involved in each and every single day, and yet they beautifully and successfully create a safe space to show up not only for their business, for their franchisees, but for themselves. I'm super excited to have you guys on the Empowered Life Podcast. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
That was a hell of an intro.
I know. That's flawless.
I want to jump in today because I'm really excited. We have a finite amount of time and we have so much that we want to cover in this episode today, but I really want to talk about transformation with the 2 of you as it relates to being in partnership, not only in business, because to set the stage for the benefit of our audience, they have a $100 million plus company. They have over 120 franchise locations. They are very, very successful. And that's just one venture that they're in. In addition to that, as I mentioned, they have a beautiful relationship. We have become really good friends. And I will never forget the very first night that we went for dinner with the 2 of them. We were sitting having sushi and just bantering back and forth. And I remember leaning back and thinking, oh, these are people I could really be friends with because they see each other. What I noticed was you don't speak over each other. You don't undermine each other. You don't cut each other off. Not one person is speaking more than the other. And you don't often see that in relationships. And the conversation was deep and it was beautiful. And when Annis and I got in the car, we took a minute and we were like, oh, I think we found some really good friends here. And we got excited because we love to hang out with like-minded people who are doing incredible things. And so my first question is for really anybody at the table, but I wanted to ask, and I think it's really important the audience sees, what does transformation look like? Because we speak about this so much on the Empowered Life podcast, but how does it work as it relates to relationship? And so anybody who wants to answer, I would love to know, how have you focused on your transformational experience in your life as an individual, knowing that the work that you're doing is going to impact your relationship? But more specifically, what I'm asking is, where have you focused that you need to be the change, not wanting your partner to create the change?
You want me to start?
You can
So,
start.
answering that specific question, it was when I had to understand love languages. I mean, really, that I didn't really, it's not to say that I didn't, when I really realized what was important to her versus what I thought was important, is where I changed myself, I think. You know, before I married Yvonne, before I met Yvonne, I never really had anybody that was kind of lifting me up, and I didn't have that same support system. I just never had it with anyone. And then when I met her, she kind of opened up doors within me to say, you are capable of these things. You can do these. And it was her way of doing that, on top of understanding what is truly important to her. Like, acts of service is her love language. So like, I could go buy her 1,000,000 roses tomorrow, and it's probably not going to mean that much to her. Not that she wouldn't like it, but you know, if I went out of my way and did something just small and minute around the house that saved her 10 minutes, that would turn her face red. You know what I mean? Just little things like that. So
I think for me, we both are on our second marriages. And so it was very clear how I failed in my first one. And I knew that I wasn't going to bring those traits with me. So the angriness, under communication is something so big. I don't want to but I always described his brain as, you can open my computer right now and there's probably 30 browsers open up. You can go open Don's computer and there's one browser, right? So they open it up, focus on that deed, and then close it. Whereas I'm trying to multitask, not that I'm successful at that, but it's actually understanding how he works and not trying to make him function the way I function, and being open to listening and not not taking so much critical, I guess, on that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I think for me with Rudi, you know, prior to meeting Rudi and us getting married and all my previous relationships, I could have absolutely pointed to a lack of communication, a lack of, you know, them wanting to really see me, support me, spend quality time. So it was very easy to point the finger, right? And say, oh, well, this is why I'm feeling this way in this relationship. And then when Rudi and I got married, and he was that rock for me, and he was that support for me in a way that I had never experienced, I realized I still had some of that same feeling, right? It's like, you think, oh, well, if you have the perfect partner, then you're not going to have the same issues, right? But wherever you go, there you are. And actually, what was being mirrored back to me was, you know, I had an issue with vulnerability. I had an issue with being really communicative. And so what I had to do was really go deep there. Like, he couldn't fix that for me. You know what I mean? And because he was showing up in that way, in a lot of ways, though, he became an expander for me. Like, he kind of showed me what that looked like, but it took years. It took years for me to get it. Rudi can attest to that.
You know, I grabbed my microphone off the table. I was like, I have something to say here. And we've spoken about this on the Empowered Life podcast before, and I love the story, and I'm going to give an abbreviated version of it now. When I met Anniston, from when we met to when we got married was 6 months. Our wedding was literally from when we got engaged to married 3 months. It was so fast. And then we were living together. So here you have two complete strangers, never met each other before. Now, all of a sudden, they have a house, they have a home, they have a business, they have dogs, and life is happening. And you don't actually know the person that you're marrying. And so that wouldn't be my advice to just anybody or everybody, but I knew within seconds, this is who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. But what's interesting is Anniston didn't know herself, and I was desperate to get to know her. And what I mean by that was, I just remember she was always happy. She was the happiest girlfriend anyone could ever ask for. She was the most wonderful fiance, and she was just the perfect wife. And I'll never forget saying to her one day, this isn't normal. Like you're never upset.
Can you please have a bad day?
I need to know what's going on in your head. And she said, everything's great. Anyhow, about 6 months into our marriage, man, I came home one day and she lost it. I'm talking tears and snot and anger. And she's expecting me now to retaliate, to recoil, because she's losing her mind. And she was really upset, saying, I never do the laundry and I never help with the dishes and, like whatever. And I always use that example, like, you don't know what you don't know of what you're doing, right? You think you're contributing in certain ways, but you don't know what the other person's experienced. But she was always happy, so I didn't change. And then when she lost it and she was now starting to apologize for losing it, I turned around and I said to her, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I was like, yes, what else has been making you mad? And she looked at me like, this guy's crazy. But I kept saying, like, that's what I want to know. And I want to know what's happening there. Now, I say that because there wasn't always a time when I would be honest with me. There was a long time I didn't know me. And so I had to do a lot of the internal work. I know that we've all done the internal work, and that you cannot come into a beautiful relationship unless you first, I want to say, become whole first. The other person's not going to make you whole. I love those romantic comedies. Anniston and I watch them all the time. Where Hugh Grant or some cute girl says, oh, you complete me. Well, that's not really true. You have to complete yourself first.
Yeah. Love yourself. First.
Love yourself. And I would say, Rudi, for you, I mean, if you needed some ideas of how you can answer this question really about what you had to work on, it was trust because of your past. And it just goes to show you can be in the healthiest relationship, but if you haven't actually worked on your wounds, like if you haven't dealt with them, you're bringing them right into that healthy relationship with you.
Oh yeah, we could fill 5 episodes on trust. I ended up tattooing it on my forearm for a multitude of reasons, but I brought a bunch of past relationship experiences into my marriage and held previous relationships against my wife. And she was saying, I'm not any of the people you've ever dated. But I come back to, because I want to dive in very specifically into how couples support each other. And what I want to do, rather than tell people that in the beginning of our marriage, I was very insecure. Anniston traveled extensively for work. I traveled extensively for work. I'd be lying awake at night, 11 o'clock, being like, oh my gosh, she hasn't texted me. She's not back in a hotel room yet. What's happened? And just worrying. And again, using this girlfriend cheated on me. Maybe my wife will too. We've all had that version of a story, but I grew out of that. And I would love to ask you to answer the question of how did you support me in creating that shift? Because I do believe that there is a level of internal work that you have to do as an individual when you're bringing things in, but there's an equal level of creating a safe space in a relationship for somebody to be able to lean and to grow and to be honest and to say, here's my vulnerability and here's how I'm showing up. And I'm happy to answer it for you, but I'd love to hear yours.
Well, I think I can tell, definitely setting me up. This was hard for me because I felt like I wanted so badly for him to feel so secure as he made me feel. Like I felt so secure. Like, I mean, I would never, ever would have imagined him ever cheating on me. Never have I ever. Like I've never had to even like think a thought about that, but that wasn't my past. That wasn't where I came from. And so for me, I think it was really being able to have compassion, like because I understood, like I could see what this was. I knew that this wasn't about me, right? This was about him. And so I could have absolutely gotten upset about it and yelled, and this became a massive fight, like me putting my back up. But I think as a couple, what you have to do, you can't, in addition to seeing their strengths, you also have to get a good read on what are those trigger points for your spouse. And when it happens, that you respond as best as you can, not from emotion, but with love and just knowing that like, hey, they're working through this. And so it was just showing up time and time again and me making sure that like, you know what, I could support him by communicating more with him and being more open with him, because when I wasn't, that was triggering him. So honestly, for me, I think it's really about perception. I think it's about really wanting to see the person that you're with, but I'm going to caveat that and say, I really don't think you can see your partner fully until you can fully see yourself.
I would love to know from either of you two, why do you feel you've entered into the relationship that you have with each other? Anniston and I are big believers that when we come into a partnership with people that are very close and interwoven in our lives, that there's always a learning and a gaining, as well as a supporting and a building and a comforting. and the nurturing in the relationship, but that we often pick people that are either going to push us to grow in very specific areas. And where have each of you really supported each other in coming out of your shell? I've seen you do this, by the way, because I get to see you in conversations all the time, and I watch the two of you egg each other on and come out, and it's always loving and playful. But if you were to look at the overall theme of your relationship through the lens of transformation, I'd love to know, why did you really pick each other? Not obviously consciously, and what has been one of the greatest surprises that's come out of each other supporting each other to be your best?
Oh boy, that's loaded. When I think I mentioned it a second ago too, but when right around the time her and I met, that previous year, 2 years, 3 years prior to that, I was in a whirlwind, like partying, drinking, doing a lot of things. And I had a couple like small relationships before that, but I had never met anyone that had aspirations, had goals, for, excuse my language, but had their shit together, basically, so to speak. And when I met her, that was like, it was like something new that I'd never experienced before. And I'm like, it was like a drug. I'm like, I've got to know this woman. Like, she started her own small business. And that was a time in my life where I was getting burnt out as being a carpenter. I hated my career, hated where my life was going, and I wanted more. Didn't know how to get there. I had nothing, no support system. I was on my own. And then meeting her and just instantly like firing off ideas and conversations. It was just, honestly, it was the conversations that what did it. Like hearing her goals, what she wanted to do, what she wanted to accomplish, me telling her that, and then building that relationship on top of that. You mentioned how fast your relationship was. We were business partners in 4 months. Our families and friends thought we were absolutely insane. Like, I can still remember my parents saying, you're giving up a pension and a 15-year career to go be partners with a restaurant. Like, it was unheard of. And we got mocked. We got made fun of for it. But I don't know. I mean, I think that, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm sorry, but
it actually made me really want to ask you, and I think your response was beautiful. My follow-up to you is, the two of you are in relationship and in partnership. You've built an empire. I mean, you have what everybody dreams of. You have $100 million plus company. You have so many different ventures, but yet your relationship thrives. And so, yes, you have seen each other. You've supported each other. I'm going to answer the question I initially wanted you to answer. And what I love is that you bring up really intense things playfully and you make it okay. And then you make him see the things where he's going wrong or where he could shift or change in his perspective. And then you genuinely have a good laugh about it. And then you learn and you grow. And so growing doesn't always have to be painful. But what I would love to know, for the benefit of the audience, for people that are in a relationship or aspiring to have a relationship, but they do want to create them, they have big goals, they have aspirations, and you have successfully built this massive company, but you've done it beautifully. What would be your advice to somebody that's listening to this?
To work together, basically, to establish your lanes. I think as females, we think we can take everything on their shoulders, right? I want to solve everything. And even if I can't solve it, I still want to take it on. And in a business, you cannot do that. You're not going to run a successful business. So it's establishing lanes and staying in them. Even though I want to merge in his so bad, it's just that patience and that discipline that you like, let him be alpha in his lanes, the financing, the leases, and then I can be alpha, because we were both kind of alphas in our marriage. But I think the secret to that is knowing when it's okay to not be the alpha and let him take control. And the same with him. He knows what's important to me and like, let me take control of that. And he sets back. It's also standing unified. I have slipped once in a while and kind of like picked at him in front of like our team and stuff. But I've grown over those years to where, all right, I'm going to stand behind him. Even though he's wrong at the moment, I'm going to make us look unified. And then when we get home, I'm going to be like, all right, I stood up in front of you there. Think about this. And I think what makes us so unique too is that he's black and white and I'm 50 shades of gray. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we complement each other, is that yes, there is a right and a wrong, but there's other ways to get there. And it's kind of said grow, right? So I just plant my seeds, I fertilize them, and I let them grow. And that's how we play with each other, because you don't go at them, like let it, like just sit there and ferment for a little bit and come back at a later time.
Well, we also do it in our marriage too. It's like something she just said reminded me of something I can remember early on, even before we were married. If I was having a bad day or I was having a problem with something, immediately her brain starts spinning on trying to solve the problem. I'm like, I don't need you to solve the problem. I'm just venting to you. And then I wouldn't say it would cause an argument or a tempered
I
conversation.
wanted to fix him.
She would just get fired up. And I'm like, just stop. I'm just talking this out. I don't need you to solve my problem. So,
But through coaching, I mean, that's how I stopped doing that, because
Mhm.
in a coaching session that we had, she was like, okay, when you start the conversation, be like, I don't need fixed right now. Let me know. And that was like communication again. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to listen, and that was a big turning point in our marriage, was that I didn't have to fix every problem that he was bringing.
I did the
to me.
same thing. I mean, I was bad about it too.
Something else that I've witnessed in you two that I've always felt was really unique about actually Rudi and I's marriage, and part of the reason why I feel like it works so well, not only in business in terms of being in a marriage like romantically, but also professionally being in a partnership and working together, is that I prioritize and treat Rudi's dreams, goals, aspirations, random interests, right? Just as importantly as I do my own. And we cheerlead each other. And I've seen you two do it too. Like when Don, you'll say, I really want to do this, or Yvonne, like, I don't know, I've always had this dream. Like, you don't let each other fail. Like, you don't let each other quit on the things that are really important. And I have found, I'm all goosebumps right now. I feel like so many couples need to hear that, because at some point, like, you have to ask yourself, are we on the same team? And just because we're on the same team doesn't always mean our dream and desire is necessarily going to be 100% parallel. But even when it goes in another direction, we can support each other and know that no matter what, like, I always know, it's always like, what's the worst thing that can happen if I'm going to do something that's crazy or put something out there on social media? It's like, what's the worst thing? Well, I know I'll always have Rudi in my camp. You know what I mean? Like, I know I will always have him, and I know I will always have his support. It's like having that net, that you'll always fall into. So have you two always been that way? Like, when did you develop that?
We have.
I think that came from bodybuilding though, because the first 8 years of our relationship, we were both competing. So we were training partners. We worked together all day. We lived together. So there's that constant back and forth of support. I think that's where we got it from.
Well, it's kind of, if I didn't want him to succeed and we still own the same business, that's not good, right? So I think that comes natural in the business, that we have to support each other so the business thrives. But yeah, I've always been a huge supporter. I love seeing people win. Now, that wasn't my case always. I had a jealousy tendency, but again, that was a lot of work that I had to go through. And it was basically, it was me. It was compareritis. I wanted to compare myself to everyone. And exactly what you just said, like, I think that's why we attract, because I'm just like, I'm done comparing myself. I'm going to go do it. And, if you fail, like you said, Don's in my corner. I know you two will be in my corner too. So now we got a power of 3, 4, so yeah, it's just, I've always lifted him up. You both succeed when you lift each other.
It brings me to my next question that I really want to ask, and this is for anybody sitting at the table. When we talk about transformation, I would love to know, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that you see that people make that are wanting to create transformation, but it's the biggest mistake that they're making in their relationship? And so they themselves are wanting to grow, but they're kind of expecting their partner to grow at the same pace as them, or maybe their partner's not interested in what they're doing, or they are, but maybe they're holding them back. It's not at the same speed. I would just love to know, how do you approach transformation individually and then collectively?
She tells me this all the time, so this is easy. I have a very bad habit of setting a bar way too high that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Even though the goal is fine, but I expect to get there in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And she's like, this is why you're not getting there, is because, and it comes from bodybuilding, that whole sport just warped our brain. There's a lot of positivity we got out of it, but it also kind of hurts you in the fact that, like, if I wanted to lose 20 pounds right now, I immediately go back and shift my mind into that mode of, all right, I'm eating chicken, rice, and broccoli for 4 meals a day. I go back into that prep mode. And then with training, I try to periodize my workouts and go back into that mode 15 years later, knowing that I'm not going to be able to commit to it and be able to do it. And she gets on me about it all the time. We just had this conversation the other day, and she's like, can we just start with 3? Like, do 3. And then
let's make a win.
Let's move into 4. And
every Sunday we're going to work out 7 days. I'm like, no, we're not ever, ever.
I use that analogy because I see people do that a lot with business and marriage and things like that, and trying to transform and get to where they want to go. Is they try to set the bar so high, so fast. Setting a high standard is one thing, that's fine, but trying to get there so fast is a mistake.
Mine would be that time, like exactly what he said. Like, we want it to happen all at once, right? And I hate this cliche, but you have to put the work in. It didn't take us like 30 years it took us 30 years to get to this place, right? With all these little things. And so we think that we're going to revert or change in 2 weeks. And, like, our past keeps coming up and you have to deal with it. And it's basically what he said, is taking little things as wins instead of taking the entire transformation on your shoulder in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. It's just sitting up. And I think the more wins that you get, and they could be like little, like cardio 1 day a week, that's a win. And so now I feel good. So now I'm going to do 2. Now I'm going to do 3. But it's the same thing like that with your transformation, like not saying too much in an argument and taking that step back. Like, that's a good win, right? Maybe you didn't win the argument, but you still created space and it wasn't a huge fight and one of you didn't leave the house type of thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we both, when we love as hard as we fight. And that was a big thing, is like, you just got to know. And I think it comes with experience. Like, I wanted to say these 20-year-olds, like my daughters, being married right now, and I want to tell her all this information, but I think you got to go through all the ripples of everything to learn this, right?
Yeah, I agree. And actually, you bring up a good point with life experience, because, Rudi and I have created habits. I know you two also have it as well. I think yours is in the morning, ours is in the evening, is how we end our day. Is we'll either get in the pool or the hot tub, or we'll sit in front of the fire, and that's when we'll really just like talk through, right? Like, talk through the things that came up during the day. And not always, like you said, sometimes it's just, I just want you to listen. Like, I just want to say this out loud. So Rudi is always in the loop of like what's going on. I'm a learner. Like, I'm always reading a book, or I'm listening to podcasts, and I love to learn. And so while he and I oftentimes aren't on the same track, we're not always reading the same thing and doing the same thing, he's curious and he wants to know. Like, he's open to hear about it. So I'll say, oh my gosh, you want to hear about this cool thing I read today? And then I'll tell him all about it. And that's my way and our way of staying connected through. So individually transforming while still staying connected within our relationship and growing together. I think the idea of, growing together as a couple, as, like 2 people becoming one, bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, that's never going to happen. Like, you're 2 people, like that is going, you've got you and I've got myself, I've got Rudi, and then we've got our relationship. Our relationship's like the third entity, right?
Correct.
But we are still 2 whole individuals who need to pour into ourselves to make sure that we are in fact whole individuals. And I'm not expecting him to make me happy. I'm not expecting him to be my everything, because that's not fair. And that I make sure that I'm showing up already fully fulfilled into our relationship. And then if he's doing the same thing, there's your recipe for success, in my opinion.
I'm going to say something that might not be popular to the listener, but I wouldn't be serving you if I didn't go down this path. And sometimes you're in a relationship and you're doing the work and you're wanting to create the shift and you're wanting to create the change, and the person that you're in relationship with is not picking up what you're putting down. and you're doing anything and everything in your power to try and get them to grow at the rate that you're wanting to grow at. And that's not your job. Your job is to grow you. And your job is to do what Anniston so beautifully articulated, because she does it beautifully. I mean, good God, she came home with the book, Mary Magdalene and Sacred Sex, not for men at all. But she'll read the book and then we'll sit down and she'll say, oh my God, there was this fascinating da-da-da-da. And 30 minutes later, I know everything about the book that I need to know. I don't have to read it, but I'm now at the same level that she is on the topic that was interesting to her in the book. And she consumes so much information. And so I'm interested. Sometimes I don't care about what she's reading, but I care enough to know about what she's interested in. And then the same applies if I would tie that to my children. You know, my son wants to play video games. I can't stand video games, but I will play video games with my son because my son values video games. The same thing applies. But if your partner is not wanting to grow with you, then there does come a point where you outgrow your relationship. And you don't have to know when or how or what. It will automatically and organically happen. But I am committed to being somebody who is constantly in service of the people that are around me. And it starts with me first. I fill my cup pours over. I pour into my wife, her cup pours over. We pour into our kids, that cup pours over. And it just constantly keeps going and growing. But we have to be curious. You know, we are people who are grounded in being expanders. Anniston comes to me twice a year, every year. And she will say, I want to go on vacation here with the family, and then we're going to do this motivational conference, or we're going to do this meditation retreat, or we're going to go do this thing that's going to be painful. And she picks these things that are these development, 40 hours of meditation. She's like, do you want to go on vacation for 5 days and sit on a chair and not move? And I'm like, no. But we did it together as a couple, and it was beautiful. But we are constantly seeking opportunities to learn and constantly seeking opportunities to grow. I'm going to pivot here slightly for the benefit of the audience, because the entire point of what we're doing in this episode today is really to set the foundations of how can you show up as an empowered individual, and then how can you put yourself in the right environment so that you can learn and grow, and then how do you bring that together when you are in partnership. Now, there's two people listening to this. There are people that are listening to this that are already in an incredible relationship, and you are ready and poised to pour into the person that is with you. And then there's the person that is aspiring to be, and this applies to both of you because the work starts with you as the individual. Now, why Anniston and I love Don and Yvonne so much specifically, and we've actually partnered with them on something that I'm very excited to tell you about. But one of the reasons we love them so much is you guys are innovators. As much as we want to learn and we want to grow, I'm going to just say it, like, you throw shit against the wall like nobody I know. And then if it sticks, it sticks. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And then when it sticks, you ask, how can we do it different? How can we do it better? It is 100% a personality trait Anniston and I have that we love, that we adore. And we're bringing something into the transformational space that we don't believe exists anywhere. And if it does, you'll have to DM me and share it with me because we don't think it exists. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what it is that we're creating and how it supports both men and women in creating incredible transformation.
Hey, it's Anniston Ricksteins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
Well, it actually I guess I think we should start with where the inspiration came from. And actually, it started from you guys because Don and Rudi, or actually Don, he created this amazing retreat last year for men. And this was just based on an inspiration that you wanted to give back to the people that you love the most in your life, which is incredibly beautiful in essence. And Rudi went as a guest, and then Rudi had an opportunity to do what he does because Don gave him the space to transform, to just to speak and to transform those that were there. And And what we kept hearing, because Yvonne was there, was the guys saying, oh my gosh, like not only we need to do this again, when can we come back? Because of the incredible impact that it had on their life of men being able to get together and really have that life-changing experience, have fun, connect. But they said, but man, like I need something for my wife. Like she wants to do this too. And it really got us thinking of, you know what, like, why can't we have 2 separate retreats that while they are autonomous and they stand on their own, we have one for women, one for men, but that they follow a similar format. They're held in the same venue, and that would allow for a man and a woman who are in a relationship to both be able to come and grow every year, to both be able to invest and pour into themselves so that when they come back together, they can share their experiences. They will be able to relate to each other. Because how many times have you been to a retreat or something and then you come back to Don and be like, I don't even know how to tell you about this.
Right.
You
can't even explain it because he wasn't there. He can't see it, and pictures don't do justice. But I think that's what is so cool about this is that each person could come to the same event or same space, and we're already creating that similarity that they can go home and talk about. I was just like a fly on the wall at his retreat because it was all men and I wanted them to experience. I kind of knew what he was wanting them to experience, and I just didn't want a female, not that any like stuff was going on, but I just wanted them to open up and to have that whole masculinity out there in the open. And oh my gosh, just from being an outsider on that, it was so transformational for me to see how they came day one and how they left on the end of that day. And I was so super proud of him for creating that event. And the men who were there, like you said, how do my wives? And they were reaching out to me like, when's the girls' retreat? When's the girls' retreat? And it just so happened like with me and you, like our energy, exactly like how Don and Rudi are, we both bring something different, but the experience is going to be so amazing.
Don, I want to ask the question of you here because I obviously had the honor and the privilege of attending your event, and I came in as a guest, but I left as a brother. For the longest time, I have said to Anniston, now we've been married for 14 years, and I've said to her, I'm really looking for a group of brothers. And I'm very particular about who I spend my time with. And so I've had opportunities to go on dive trips that I have canceled or opportunities to go camping and I've canceled. But when this came up, something said to me, you need to be in this room. But I didn't know anybody in the room except for you. And yet we brought people in from all walks of life, all levels of success, all levels of strength and talent and ability, and put them in a room. And we did the most unique things that I would never have thought of. We put people in environments that have never fired a firearm to go and learn how to use handguns. Then it was rifles and archery. We did saunas and cold plunge. There was mindset. There was so much brotherhood in that. But what really blew me away was your intent behind the event that you created. And I don't want to take it away from you. I want you to speak into that in a second. But I want to just add, as an observer being in that room, I realized it's not just Rudi that needs to be in that room, that I'm not the only man that has that yearning to be in a brotherhood. I've been somebody who was never excluded. Anniston has said to me for 14 years, I want to support women. And I'm always saying to her, why just women? Why don't you serve men too? Like men have feelings. Men want to do the work. And she's like, but I feel called to. And I'm like, well, I still feel like that's wrong. Men. And so when someone says a men's retreat versus a woman's retreat, I've always thought it's wrong. It should just be a retreat. But being at that brotherhood event was so powerful. And had my wife been there, I wouldn't have shown up the way that I did. To see grown men stand up and cry and give permission and hugs and breakthroughs and to stop drinking and to change career paths and all of that in a matter of days. Please, why don't you just tell us what made you want to host that event? And then what do you think was the greatest gift that came out of it?
The greatest gift that came out of it was the transformations that came out of it for me. That's what meant the most to me. I wanted to do this event for really 2 reasons. I've had the honor of going to some of the best events that you can think of. I mean, I'm really good friends with all the guys at Sorinex, so they have Summer Strong, where they bring all of the strength coaches from around the country in. They have amazing speakers. They have a spinoff of that called Winter Strong, and that's where Bert had this idea of bringing in, guys from the strength and conditioning world, introducing them to the outdoors. It's great. The purpose behind that is amazing. I love that event. Love going to it every year. But I've always wanted to have an event where I bring 25 or 30 of the closest guys that have helped me get to where I am. And I've never seen anybody do this. They may have, but I just have never seen it or been a part of it, where there's no specific outcome. It's basically sharing your network, getting them in a room, like putting lightning in a bottle, shaking it up and seeing what comes out of it. And so I didn't really have any expectations out of it. I had no agenda. I had no preset things that I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to see what was going to happen with those 30 guys in the same room. But also on the flip side, I wanted to see what would happen to some of the most masculine, testosterone-filled guys. What would happen if you opened them up? Because you don't really see that. We throw this word alpha or toxic masculinity around like it's cheese, and nobody really understands it. And I get a little irritated when I hear, people talk about masculinity in a way, or, guys come off in a certain way trying to impress people, right? With this alpha mentality. And I'm like, you're trying to be too vocal with this. It's not coming off right. Like if you look at pack animals, the alpha of a herd, where are they usually located at? In the back. They're not out in front. They're protectors. They protect people. And so usually when you get somebody that's doing that wrong, if they're beating on their chest, it's an ego-driven thing. And so I knew that the guys that I was bringing to this event were not like that. And so I was like, okay, let's see how vulnerable they're going to get and how they're going to open up. And they really did. Like you said, it was lightning in a bottle. And so I was like, what just happened? This was amazing. And so when we collectively come up with this idea, expanding on that is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you guys always say you love how we operate, right? And how your intentions is, like, when I've talked to both of you guys, you're like, okay, what's our outcome? And I'm like, I don't know. He just said that. He's like, I didn't have an expectation on this outcome. And I think that's why it always works, is because you kind of, like, for us to test this, right? We didn't have any expectations. I kind of knew what was going to maybe happen, like, in my head. But until that actually happened, you don't know. And I love how both of us, we don't have a business plan. We don't have a whole agenda, which we kind of had an agenda, but you know what I mean? Like, I think that's like the part of the entrepreneur is like going in there and seeing, and then you look at it and then you looked at it and you're like, all right, now if we just set some intention behind this, wow, now what can we create?
So Rudi and I, one of our passions, and those that listen to the Empire Life podcast know this, or you might not know this, but we are passionate about creating personal development journeys. We've mostly done it in the corporate space, year after year after year of going in to help plan and curate these absolute unique journeys for individuals to be able to transform. And we believe that even in a business setting, and especially in a business setting, that when an individual can come with an open heart and an open mind, and they are poured into, and they leave not only understanding themselves more, understanding their purpose more, but also just feeling connected, right? Feeling the energy of being in a room full of people that are also expanding, that will catalyze something in their lives. And we've seen it year after year after year of these attendees leaving. And so when we came to first visit Don and Yvonne at their beautiful property, V&V Farms, which they have completely just made into this gorgeous, gorgeous space for events, to host large gatherings and retreats. So because Rudi and I always look through this personal development lens, the minute we saw the property, we were like, are you guys going to be hosting retreats here? Because this place is perfect for it. I mean, we could see, oh, you could do a ceremony over there. And then, oh my gosh, you could do, all the yoga over there, and really seeing how all these unique spaces around the property could be utilized in such a unique way. And so this is all before we started having these discussions, and obviously right when Don was starting to plan this retreat. So I just love how things fall into place.
Yep.
And I think for these individual retreats, they will each have very much their own individual energy and an intention. But what's so great is because us four are so aligned that I know that there is going to be a lot of overlap too. And so they will be within weeks of each other. So that if you are in a couple and your husband or if your wife would like to attend, but you have children at home, well, then one of you can stay home while the other one goes. But it's not so far apart that you aren't both still in that unbelievable post-event energy. You know what I mean? That you get to really come back to each other with and build upon together as a couple in a relationship.
We believe that when you as a couple grow together, that you grow together, meaning when you grow your mind, you grow your awareness, you grow your understanding, you grow yourself, then you as a couple are going to bring more into the relationship and you're going to get better. And if we just look at your business as an example, and you've got many of them, but if we just look at Clean Eatz, like it constantly just grows and expands beautifully, but it's because you're growing and expanding yourselves. And that I work inside of business where I see leaders who are successful and I see the trappings behind leaders that are not successful. My phone often rings when people are not performing or their teams are not performing and they're saying, how can we create a shift? How can we create a change? And it so often falls into the people that are running the business. And we can know that, but what do we do with that information? What I love about the space that we're creating, and Anniston had mentioned, we have been bringing curated events inside of businesses for years now. When you could put 500 people into a room that come from 50 different nationalities from all over the world, different cultures, and get them to be on the same page, to open their hearts, to drop labels, to drop titles, to just be human beings with kindness, with compassion, to set powerful goals, to go out and achieve them. That's how you grow a company from 300 million to $1 billion. What does that look like when it's your personal life, when you've invested in you? And so what today really is a challenge to you as you hear this episode is to ask yourself, are you worthy of the transformation that you seek? Are you going to put a flag or a stake in the ground that says, I want more for my life? And are you going to surround yourself with a group of like-minded people who are not only going to see you, but are going to support you, who are going to encourage you, and are lovingly going to nudge you forward and put you in curated spaces that are going to bring out different aspects of you so that you can truly see yourself. Transformation for me is looking into a mirror and seeing myself. And that is in every person around me, not just when I'm seeing my reflection in the bathroom. And this is about putting you in environments where you are going to be challenged and pushed, not out of your comfort zone that makes it unbearable, but in a way where you get to see how is this showing up in every other facet of your life. And that if you were to shift a perspective on that, the entirety of your life is going to shift and to be able to change. I will tell you, I have been in relationships and I've been in situations where I've learned and I've grown and I've come back. We spoke about it a moment ago. And then the person that you're with hasn't had that shift or hasn't had that growth, hasn't had that awareness. And so when we spoke about putting on a men's retreat, extending what Don had already done, bringing in very intentional transformation in, and then thinking about, well, what happens now when the women want to be able to do it? And what's so interesting is I mentioned it on the Empowered Life community coaching call. And I got about 30 messages from women in the community saying, well, that's not fair that you're doing a boys' retreat. Where's the women's retreat? And I was like, hold your horses, hold your horses. There's a women's retreat. And I don't believe that there is a space that is creating this level of transformation in everybody's life so that you can come back together. So what I'm going to challenge you to do today is to ask yourself a few things and then to take an action. And the first is, who do you want to be? The second is, what are you prepared to do? And what rooms can you get in that are going to support you to be able to do that? Because I believe that we have curated something unbelievably powerful. We're going to drop all the links into the show notes for you. where you can learn all about it. You can DM any one of us. All of our handles will be placed into the show notes. I want Anniston to close by talking a little bit into what is some of the transformation as we bring this episode to a close, because I think people always need to understand what is in it for them. We know that if you attend a retreat, it's going to be fun. You're going to have new relationships. You're going to forge partnerships with people. Speaking into your event, I mean, the number of business partnerships that came out of that event and things and opportunities that came up, it is going to organically happen. But I want to speak into the individual. And then my challenge to you is to click the links, to have a look at what we're offering, what the dates are. Obviously, reserve your spot. If you're interested, if you have questions, reach out to us and ask. But let's close today's episode by speaking into what are some of the benefits of attending an event like this, obviously for men and or for women.
Well, first of all, we are all very much aligned, and that experience is always the greatest teacher, right? And you could stay home in the comfort of your home, and you could watch a video, you could get on a Zoom call, you could read a book, but until you actually experience something, you haven't integrated it. Nothing will change, right? And nothing changes until you change. So that is very much the ethos behind both the journey for the women's and the men's retreat. It is all about integration. It is all about putting yourself into different situations, feeling things maybe you've avoided, doing things you've never done before, so you can start to disrupt what has been, so you can start to create what you want instead. And so it's everything from, experiential journeys to really understand yourself at a deeper level. It's being able to not only understand, but break through some of those limitations that have stopped you in the past. I think it's also about just really being able to remember, to reconnect with and remember who the heck you are, and to do it in a way that you will experience something that you will never forget. So it will be anchored. And I think that is the beauty and the power of getting into a room with other people, because you cannot replicate being around other energy. You just can't. I mean, Rudi and I, we spend money, as he said, to go and sit at an advanced meditation retreat for 7 days when we meditate every day by ourselves. Why would we do that? Because when you are in the energy of other like-minded people, magic happens. You're able to go deeper. You're able to go further. You're able to break through in a way that you never would have before, because you are being able to harness the energy of the room, to harness the energy of the space, and even better, to experience the beautiful energy of the land that both Yvonne and Don own. And it's just such a magical property, and just being in that space itself is healing. And so it's a lot of healing, but it's a lot of growth. And finally, it's connection. I think that right now we are all so starved for really having that connection with people, that it's real, it's authentic, it's not surface level. It's based on realness and emotional integrity. And that's when you create bonds that are for life. That's when you create you widen your circle with people that are expanders for you, that are going to hold you up, and that they're going to hold you accountable, and they want to see you succeed.
I'm going to add something that just landed for me while I was sitting here. It's like I had this beautiful aha moment I want to share with our audience today. Wow. In life, I think that when you're meant to do something, that there's breadcrumbs and there's nudges and there's these unfoldings of moments that happen organically. Because at no point in time did any of us sit down and say, you know what we should do? We should come together and create this event or start creating these retreats. And yet everything was birthed out of need, necessity, and then want and demand. And as it was unfolding, I naturally and organically was just brought in. We started having conversations, and then it naturally just started to include a women's retreat. And then naturally it's had this evolving. And so I want to challenge you not only to be curious about looking into this event, but to ask yourself, where in your life are you seeing the breadcrumbs? Where in your life are you getting the nudges? Where are opportunities opening up that you maybe haven't even thought of? But now that they're open, your curiosity is piqued, because I think there's a lesson in that in itself. Most certainly was for me today. I want to thank you for joining us on the Empowered Life podcast. We freaking love you guys so much. We are always holding the highest and the greatest vision potential for you. We know that you can spend your time anywhere doing anything, and anytime you spend time with us, it means the world to us. I am going to ask you to follow and subscribe not only to the Empowered Life podcast if you haven't already, but to check out the Don and Yvonne shows as well. Anniston has a brand new show right now that is kicking ass. And learn a little bit more about these incredible human beings and how they're showing up out and in the world and making a difference. And we look forward to seeing you guys, hopefully, at an event real soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.